Great white sharks, the ocean's apex predators, can reach up to 20 feet in length and have a powerful bite force of over 4,000 pounds. These formidable hunters are known for their speed and stealth, often ambushing their prey with devastating efficiency. But they aren't the only danger lurking in the deep. From deadly sea snakes to aggressive seals, the ocean hides many threats. Discover the true stories of terrifying encounters with these dangerous sea creatures and find out just how perilous the ocean can be. In the summer of 1999, a group of friends decided to embark on a sailing trip along the beautiful coastline of Australia. They had been planning this trip for months, eager to explore the picturesque bays and enjoy the sun, sea, and sand. On the morning of July 15th, they set sail from the small coastal town of Merimbula, located in New South Wales. The weather was perfect, with clear blue skies and a gentle breeze guiding their boat, the Seafarer, along the coastline. The group comprised 4 friends: Thomas Green, Gracie Brown, Bruce Turner, and Sarah Hill. They had been friends since college and shared many adventures. But this trip was special. It was a chance to reconnect, away from the hustle and bustle of their everyday lives. Thomas, the most experienced sailor among them, had charted a course to a secluded bay known for its crystal-clear waters and stunning underwater scenery. By midday, they had reached the bay. The water was indeed clear, revealing a vibrant marine world below. The bay was surrounded by rocky cliffs and dense vegetation, creating a sense of seclusion and tranquility. It was the perfect spot for a swim. The group anchored the boat and prepared to dive into the inviting water. They spent the early afternoon exploring the underwater world with their snorkeling gear. The bay was teeming with colorful fish, sea turtles, and coral reefs. Gracie, a marine biology enthusiast, marveled at the diversity of life beneath the surface. She pointed out various species to her friends, excitedly sharing her knowledge. Bruce, an avid photographer, captured the beauty of the underwater landscape with his waterproof camera, eager to document every moment of their adventure. Little did they know, the bay was home to a rogue great white shark. This shark, unlike others of its kind, had developed a taste for human flesh and had been terrorizing the area for weeks. Great white sharks are apex predators known for their powerful build and razor-sharp teeth. They can grow up to 20 feet in length and are capable of detecting prey from great distances, thanks to their keen sense of smell and ability to detect electrical signals. As the friends swam and laughed, enjoying their time in the water, the shark lurked below, unseen and undetected. The bay, which seemed like paradise, was about to become a nightmare. As the afternoon wore on, Thomas suggested they explore a nearby cave accessible only by swimming. The group agreed, excited by the prospect of a new adventure. They swam towards the cave, the water growing colder and darker as they approached. The entrance to the cave was narrow, and they had to swim single file to get inside. Once they were through, they found themselves in a spacious chamber with air pockets and rocky ledges. The friends took turns diving underwater to explore the cave's hidden depths. They found small fish darting in and out of crevices and strange luminescent algae glowing in the dark. The thrill of discovery kept their spirits high, unaware of the danger lurking outside. As the afternoon sun began to lower, casting a golden glow over the bay, the friends decided to take one last swim before heading back to the boat. Thomas and Bruce swam farther out, while Gracie and Sarah stayed closer to the shore. The water was calm, and there was a sense of peace in the air. Suddenly, a shadow passed beneath Thomas. He felt a rush of water and turned to see the massive form of the great white shark approaching at incredible speed. Before he could react, the shark struck, its jaws closing around his leg with immense force. The pain was excruciating, and Thomas screamed, trying to free himself from the predator's grip. Bruce, hearing his friend's screams, turned and saw the horror unfolding. He swam towards Thomas, but the shark was relentless. It thrashed its head, pulling Thomas underwater. Blood clouded the water, a stark contrast to the crystal-clear sea they had admired just moments before. Gracie and Sarah, realizing something was wrong, began to swim towards the boat. They could see the struggle in the distance, with the water turning red. Panic set in, and they swam with all their might, desperate to reach safety. Bruce, driven by a surge of adrenaline, reached Thomas and tried to pull him free. The shark released its grip for a moment, only to strike again, this time taking a larger bite. Thomas's body went limp and Bruce knew his friend was gone. He had to get back to the boat to warn the others and get help. As he swam towards Gracie and Sarah, the shark followed, drawn by the scent of blood. It attacked again, this time targeting Bruce. The impact was like being hit by a freight train. Bruce felt the shark's teeth sink into his side, tearing through flesh and bone. His vision blurred, and he felt himself slipping away. Gracie and Sarah reached the boat and scrambled aboard, their hearts pounding. They saw the shark's dorsal fin cutting through the water, heading towards Bruce. They watched in horror as their friend was pulled under, disappearing into the depths. In the aftermath of the attack, Gracie and Sarah radioed for help, their voices shaking with fear and grief. They managed to pull up the anchor and steer the boat away from the bay, heading back towards Marimbula. The journey was a blur of tears and shock. When they finally reached the town, they were met by emergency services and authorities. The news of the attack spread quickly. The community was in shock, mourning the loss of Thomas and Bruce. The bay was closed off, and marine biologists and authorities launched an investigation to track down the rogue shark. It was a grim reminder of the power and unpredictability of nature. Gracie and Sarah, traumatized by the events, struggled to come to terms with their loss. They found solace in each other and the support of their friends and family. The sailing trip, meant to be a joyous reunion, had turned into a nightmare, a memory forever etched in their minds. In the days following the attack, the authorities intensified their search for the rogue shark. They deployed boats equipped with tracking devices and underwater cameras, hoping to locate and neutralize the threat. Marine biologists studied the patterns of the shark, trying to understand its behavior and why it had become so aggressive. The waters of the secluded bay, once a symbol of beauty and peace, were now associated with fear and tragedy. The rogue great white shark, a force of nature, had left a mark on their lives that would never fade. Yet amidst the grief and loss, a renewed commitment emerged to understanding and respecting the power of the ocean and its inhabitants. In the spring of 2001, Dr. Emily Carter, a renowned marine biologist, led a research expedition into the icy waters of the Arctic. The team, based in the small coastal town of Tromsø, Norway, aimed to study the behavior of orcas in their natural habitat. They set sail on the research vessel Polar Explorer, equipped with advanced tracking and monitoring devices to observe the killer whales up close. The team consisted of 5 members: Dr. Emily Carter, Dr. Michael Harris, Dr. Laura Smith, technician Jack Miller, and intern Sophie Brown. Each brought unique skills to the mission, united by a shared passion for marine life and discovery. The Arctic offered a stark, beautiful landscape of ice floes and deep blue waters, where the team hoped to uncover new insights into orca behavior. On April 10th, the team woke early, excited for another day of research. The morning light cast a golden hue over the frozen expanse. The air was crisp and cold, with temperatures hovering just above freezing. They donned their insulated suits and prepared their equipment for a day of observations and data collection. Orcas, also known as killer whales, are apex predators known for their intelligence and complex social structures. They can grow up to 30 feet in length and are known to hunt in coordinated pods, using sophisticated communication and hunting techniques. The Arctic waters provided a rich feeding ground for orcas, where they preyed on seals, fish, and even larger whales. As the Polar Explorer navigated through the ice-laden waters, the team spotted a pod of orcas in the distance. They quickly set up their cameras and hydrophones to record the orcas' movements and vocalizations. Dr. Carter noted the distinct markings on each orca, identifying individuals she had observed on previous expeditions. The pod seemed calm, moving gracefully through the water, their dorsal fins cutting through the icy surface. The team spent hours observing the pod, recording their interactions and collecting data. Dr. Harris and Dr. Smith discussed the unique behaviors they were witnessing, while Jack ensured the equipment was functioning correctly. Sophie took detailed notes, eager to learn from the experienced scientists around her. As the day progressed, Dr. Carter noticed a shift in the orca's behavior. The usually playful and curious animals became more agitated, their movements erratic. She observed them circling the boat, vocalizing loudly. This was unusual, as orcas typically avoided close contact with boats. Dr. Carter suspected something was wrong and instructed the team to remain vigilant. The Arctic sun began to set, casting long shadows over the ice. The team decided to call it a day and headed back to the vessel to review their findings. The data collected was substantial, providing valuable insights into orca behavior. However, the unusual aggression displayed by the pod left Dr. Carter uneasy. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The following morning, the team awoke to find the polar explorer surrounded by the same pod of orcas. Their behavior was even more aggressive than the day before. The orcas circled the vessel, ramming it with their powerful bodies. The impact shook the boat, causing the team to scramble to secure their equipment and stabilize the vessel. Dr. Carter tried to understand the reason behind the orcas' aggression. She reviewed the data from the previous day, looking for any clues. The team speculated that the orcas might be responding to changes in their environment or disturbances in their feeding grounds. However, the intensity of the attack suggested a more direct and targeted aggression. The orcas coordinated their attacks with alarming precision. They struck the boat's hull repeatedly, causing it to take on water. Jack and Sophie worked frantically to patch the breaches, while Dr. Harris and Dr. Smith tried to keep the equipment safe. The situation grew dire as the orcas showed no signs of relenting. Dr. Carter radioed for help, but the remote location meant that assistance was hours away. The team was on their own, facing the relentless assault of the orcas. The boat's engines roared as they tried to maneuver away from the pod, but the orcas pursued them with determination. Each hit from the orcas sent a jolt through the vessel, a reminder of the sheer power of these marine predators. In a particularly violent strike, the orcas breached the hull near the engine room. Water poured in, flooding the lower decks. The team had no choice but to abandon the engine room and retreat to the upper decks. Dr. Carter instructed everyone to grab emergency supplies and prepare the lifeboats. As they worked to deploy the lifeboats, the orcas began to target the smaller crafts, biting and shaking them. One lifeboat was ripped apart before it could even be launched. The team's options were dwindling and panic set in. They had to find a way to escape the orcas' relentless attacks. In a desperate bid for survival, Dr. Carter devised a plan to use the boat's emergency flare guns to deter the orcas. She hoped the bright lights and loud noises would scare them off long enough for the team to launch a lifeboat and escape. Dr. Harris and Jack readied the flares while Dr. Smith and Sophie prepared the remaining lifeboat. With a signal from Dr. Carter, the team fired the flares into the water around the orcas. The bright flashes and loud bangs momentarily confused the pod, causing them to scatter. Seizing the opportunity, the team launched the lifeboat and began rowing away from the crippled vessel. As they paddled through the icy waters, the orcas regrouped and resumed their pursuit. The team rowed with all their strength, adrenaline fueling their efforts. The icy water splashed over them, chilling them to the bone, but they pushed on, driven by sheer survival instinct. Hours passed as they navigated the treacherous waters, constantly looking over their shoulders for signs of the orcas. The cold and exhaustion began to take their toll, but the sight of a rescue helicopter on the horizon brought a glimmer of hope. The team waved frantically, signaling for help. The helicopter lowered a rescue basket, and one by one the team members were lifted to safety. As Dr. Carter ascended, she looked down at the water, seeing the orcas still circling below. The aggressive behavior remained a mystery, but the team had survived, their ordeal a stark reminder of the unpredictable power of nature. In the aftermath of the attack, the research vessel was salvaged, and the team returned to Tromsø. The experience had left them shaken but determined to continue their work. Dr. Carter and her team shared their findings with the scientific community, sparking discussions about orca behavior and environmental stressors. In the summer of 2003, Jack Miller, a renowned deep-sea fisherman, embarked on an ambitious expedition to break the world record for catching the largest swordfish ever recorded. Jack and his seasoned crew set sail from Key West, Florida, aboard the Sea Hunter, a sturdy fishing boat equipped for the challenges of deep-sea fishing. The waters off the Florida coast were known for their abundance of swordfish, powerful and swift predators of the ocean. The crew consisted of Jack Miller, his first mate Sam Thompson, navigator Lisa Brown, and deckhand Tom Harris. Each member brought years of experience and a deep love for the sea. The morning of June 12th was clear and bright, with a gentle breeze and calm seas. Spirits were high as they left the harbor, fueled by the excitement of the adventure and the potential to make history. Swordfish are known for their elongated flat bills, which they use to slash at their prey. These formidable creatures can grow up to 14 feet in length and weigh over 1,000 pounds. Their speed and agility make them a challenging catch, even for the most experienced fishermen. Jack had been fascinated by these majestic fish since childhood, and had spent years honing his skills in the hopes of one day catching a record-breaking specimen. As the sea hunter ventured into deeper waters, the crew prepared their gear, checking lines, hooks, and bait. The sun climbed higher, casting a warm glow over the endless expanse of the ocean. The hours passed with little action, but the crew remained vigilant, scanning the water for any sign of movement. By midday, they spotted a telltale splash in the distance. Jack's heart raced as he recognized the distinct fin of a swordfish cutting through the waves. The crew sprang into action, casting their lines and preparing for the battle ahead. The swordfish struck the bait and the reel sang as the line was pulled taut. Jack gripped the rod, feeling the immense power of the fish on the other end. The struggle began. The swordfish fought with incredible strength, diving deep and pulling the line out to sea. Jack and his crew worked in unison, each member playing their part to tire the fish and bring it closer to the boat. Hours passed. The sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The swordfish was relentless, refusing to give up. As darkness fell, the crew rigged lights to the side of the boat, illuminating the water around them. The swordfish, drawn by the light, made a sudden, powerful surge towards the boat. Its sharp bill struck the hull with a force that reverberated through the sea hunter. The crew gasped as they realized the fish was not just a passive catch. It was fighting back with a vengeance. The swordfish rammed the boat again, its bill piercing the hull and causing water to gush in. Panic set in as the crew scrambled to repair the damage and keep the boat afloat. Jack knew they had to act quickly. The relentless attacks could sink them if they didn't find a way to subdue the fish. Sam and Tom grabbed the patch kit and worked frantically to seal the breach, while Lisa monitored their position, ensuring they stayed on course and away from dangerous reefs. The swordfish circled the boat, its glowing eyes reflecting the lights from above, a menacing figure in the dark water. Jack tightened his grip on the rod, determined to bring the fish in before it caused any more damage. With another powerful lunge, the swordfish struck the boat's stern, splintering wood and shaking the entire vessel. The crew was thrown off balance, and Jack felt the rod nearly ripped from his hands. He shouted for the crew to brace themselves and hold on as the swordfish continued its assault. The fish's relentless attacks left deep gashes in the hull, and water poured in faster than they could pump it out. The sea hunter was taking on water at an alarming rate, and the crew faced the grim reality that they might not make it back to shore. They had to either subdue the fish or abandon the ship. Jack made a desperate decision. He instructed Sam to bring the harpoon, a tool they had hoped not to use unless necessary. The harpoon was their last resort, a means to end the fight quickly and ensure their survival. Sam readied the weapon, his hand steady despite the fear gripping him. As the swordfish charged again, Jack timed the moment perfectly. He signaled Sam, who threw the harpoon with all his strength. The harpoon struck true, embedding deep into the fish's side. The swordfish thrashed wildly, but the fight was over. Its movement slowed and it began to drift, its strength fading. The crew quickly secured the fish and began the arduous task of bailing out water and patching the remaining holes. The damage was severe, but they managed to stabilize the boat enough to limp back toward shore. The journey was slow and fraught with tension, each member of the crew acutely aware of how close they had come to disaster. As dawn broke, the silhouette of Key West appeared on the horizon. The crew's exhaustion gave way to relief and a sense of accomplishment. They had survived the harrowing ordeal and brought in the largest swordfish any of them had ever seen. The fish measured nearly 14 feet and weighed close to 1,000 pounds, a potential world record. Back in the harbor, they were met with awe and admiration. The story of their battle spread quickly, and the fish was officially weighed and measured. It indeed set a new record, cementing Jack's place in fishing history. But for Jack and his crew, the achievement was bittersweet. The encounter had tested their limits and reminded them of the ocean's unforgiving nature. In the weeks that followed, the crew repaired the Sea Hunter and reflected on their experience. The bond between them had grown stronger through the shared ordeal. Jack continued his deep-sea adventures, always carrying the memory of that fateful day and the swordfish that nearly claimed their lives. In the spring of 2005, Laura Bennett, a skilled wildlife photographer, journeyed to the remote island of Greenwood, nestled in the Pacific Northwest off the coast of British Columbia, Canada. Greenwood was known for its rugged beauty and diverse wildlife, especially its large seal population. Laura was eager to capture these majestic creatures in their natural habitat. The date was May 14th, and the morning was cool and misty. Laura set out early, her camera gear packed and ready. The island was peaceful, the air filled with the sounds of waves crashing against rocky shores and the calls of seabirds. The seals were the main attraction, and Laura hoped to get some close-up shots of them. Laura had always been fascinated by seals. These marine mammals were agile swimmers and skilled hunters. The seals on Greenwood Island were harbor seals, known for their curious nature and distinct spotted coats. They were a common sight on the rocky beaches, basking in the sun or playing in the surf. As she made her way to the beach, Laura noticed a particularly large male seal. He was much bigger than the others, with a scarred face and a commanding presence. This seal seemed to dominate the others, chasing them away if they got too close. Laura was intrigued and decided to focus her attention on him. She spent hours photographing the seal, watching his movements and interactions with the other seals. He was aggressive, often charging at the others with surprising speed. Laura kept a safe distance but couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. There was something unsettling about this seal's behavior. By midday, Laura had taken hundreds of photos. She decided to take a break and review her work. As she sat on a rock, scrolling through the images on her camera, she heard a loud splash. She looked up to see the large seal moving towards her. His eyes were fixed on her, and he was moving fast. Laura stood up, her heart pounding. She had encountered many wild animals in her career, but this was different. The seal's approach was not curious, it was aggressive. Laura backed away slowly, hoping to avoid provoking him further. But the seal continued to advance, his teeth bared. Realizing the danger, Laura turned and ran. She could hear the seal behind her, his heavy body slapping against the wet rocks. She reached the edge of the beach and climbed up a steep path leading back to the island's interior. The seal stopped at the base of the path, growling in frustration. Laura watched from above, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Shaken, she made her way back to her campsite. She couldn't shake the image of the seal's angry eyes and bared teeth. She knew she had to leave the island, but her boat was on the other side, and she had to pass the beach again to reach it. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the island, Laura packed her gear and steeled herself for the journey back to her boat. She hoped the seal would have returned to the water by now, but as she approached the beach, she saw him again lurking near the shore. And he wasn't alone. Several other seals had joined him, all of them displaying the same aggressive behavior. As Laura approached the beach, she could see the seals moving in the shallow water, their dark bodies blending with the rocks. The large male was at the forefront, his eyes fixed on her. She took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. She needed to get to her boat and warn the authorities about the aggressive seals. Laura moved slowly, keeping her eyes on the seals. She hoped they would stay in the water, but as she neared the shore, the large male lunged forward. His powerful body propelled him onto the rocks, and he charged at her with surprising speed. Laura turned and ran, but the seal was relentless. She stumbled on the rocky ground, falling hard. Pain shot through her leg, but she scrambled to her feet, adrenaline fueling her movements. The seal was right behind her, snapping his jaws. Laura reached for a stick lying on the ground and swung it at the seal, trying to keep him at bay. The seal growled and bit the stick, snapping it in half. Laura knew she couldn't fight him off for long. She turned and ran again, this time heading for a small cliff overlooking the water. If she could climb high enough, she might be able to escape. The seal chased her, his heavy body crashing against the rocks. Laura reached the base of the cliff and began to climb. Her hand slipped on the wet rock, but she pulled herself up, inch by inch. The seal lunged, his teeth snapping just below her feet. She climbed higher, her heart pounding. As she reached the top, she looked down to see the seal circling below, growling in frustration. She knew she had to find another way to her boat. The seals were blocking the beach, and there was no way she could get past them. She decided to follow the cliff's edge, hoping it would lead to a safer route. The cliff path was narrow and treacherous, but Laura pressed on. She could hear the seals below, their growls echoing up the rocks. She knew she had to move quickly. As she rounded a bend, she saw a narrow path leading down to a secluded cove. Her boat was anchored just beyond it. Laura descended the path, her legs shaking with fear and exhaustion. She reached the cove and waded into the water, keeping an eye out for any seals. The water was cold, but she pushed forward, determined to reach her boat. She climbed aboard and started the engine, her hands trembling. As she steered the boat away from the island, she looked back to see the seals on the shore, watching her with dark, angry eyes. She knew she had to warn the local community about the aggressive seals. She radioed the Coast Guard, reporting the attacks and the unusual behavior of the seals. The authorities took her report seriously. They dispatched a team to investigate and monitor the seal population. Laura's photos and first-hand account provided valuable evidence. The local community was warned to stay away from the beaches until the situation was resolved. In the days that followed, marine biologists studied the seals, trying to understand the cause of their aggression. They discovered that the seals had been stressed by a lack of food and increased human activity in the area. The large male had become particularly aggressive, likely due to competition for scarce resources. Laura's encounter with the seals had been a terrifying reminder of the unpredictability of wildlife. She continued her work as a photographer, but with a renewed respect for the animals she documented. In the dense, humid heart of the Louisiana Bayou, a small community named Belle River was living in fear. The date was June 15, 2007. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and the constant hum of insects. The bayou, with its sprawling swamps and murky waters, was both a place of beauty and danger. It was known for its rich wildlife, including the fearsome saltwater crocodile. The community had been troubled by a series of mysterious disappearances over the past few months. Fishermen, hunters, and even children had vanished without a trace. The latest incident involved a young girl named Lily Johnson. Lily, a curious and adventurous 12-year-old, had gone exploring near the edge of the swamp. She loved the bayou and often wandered its paths, captivated by its natural wonders. On that fateful day, Lily had ventured further than usual. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the water. She crouched by the edge of the swamp, watching the ripples in the water. Suddenly, the water exploded in a frenzy of movement. A massive saltwater crocodile lunged at her, its jaws snapping shut with a deafening crunch. Lily screamed and stumbled backward, narrowly escaping the predator's grasp. Her father, John Johnson, a local hunter, had been nearby and heard her cries. He raced to her side, his heart pounding with fear. He found Lily trembling and breathless, pointing towards the water where the crocodile had disappeared. The sheer size of the creature left John in shock. It was larger than any crocodile he had ever seen in the bayou. Saltwater crocodiles, known for their size and power, can grow up to 20 feet long and weigh over 1,000 pounds. They are apex predators, capable of taking down almost any animal, including humans. Their presence in the bayou was not unusual, but this particular crocodile seemed different. It was more aggressive and fearless, showing no hesitation in attacking a human. That night, as John comforted Lily, he realized that the crocodile might be responsible for the recent disappearances. Determined to protect his community, John decided to hunt down the beast. He enlisted the help of a wildlife expert, Dr. Emily Hayes, who had been studying crocodile behavior for years. Together, they planned to track and capture the rogue crocodile. The next morning, John and Emily set out into the bayou, equipped with rifles, traps, and a deep knowledge of the terrain. The bayou was eerily quiet, the usual sounds of wildlife replaced by a tense silence. They moved cautiously, aware that they were entering the territory of a deadly predator. As they ventured deeper into the swamp, they found signs of the crocodile's presence. Broken branches, deep gouges in the mud, and remnants of its previous meals. The evidence pointed to a large, powerful animal that had been feeding on both animals and humans. The realization sent a chill down their spines. They were dealing with a cunning and dangerous predator. As the sun began to set, John and Emily set up camp on a small island in the swamp. They reviewed their plan, knowing that the crocodile could attack at any moment. They laid baited traps around the camp and kept their rifles close. The night was dark and oppressive, the silence broken only by the occasional splash of water or rustle of leaves. Around midnight, they heard a loud splash followed by a low growl. The crocodile was nearby. John and Emily stood ready, their eyes scanning the darkness. Suddenly, the massive creature emerged from the water, its eyes glowing with a menacing light. It charged towards them with terrifying speed. John fired his rifle, the shot echoing through the bayou. The bullet hit the crocodile's tough hide but didn't stop it. The beast lunged at John, knocking him to the ground. Emily aimed and fired, hitting the crocodile in the side. It roared in pain and turned towards her, its jaws snapping. John scrambled to his feet and grabbed his knife. He slashed at the crocodile's snout, trying to drive it away. The crocodile retaliated, swinging its powerful tail and sending John flying into the water. Emily fired again, this time hitting the crocodile in a vulnerable spot. The beast roared and thrashed, its movements growing weaker. With one final, desperate effort, John climbed out of the water and drove his knife into the crocodile's neck. The beast convulsed and fell still, its body half submerged in the water. They had finally killed the predator that had terrorized their community. Exhausted and injured, John and Emily took a moment to catch their breath. They knew their battle was over, but the memory of the hunt would stay with them forever. They radioed for help, and within hours the authorities arrived to assist them and transport the massive crocodile's body. Back in Bell River, the news of their victory spread quickly. The community was relieved and grateful. The disappearances had come to an end, and life in the bayou slowly returned to normal. John and Emily were hailed as heroes, and their bravery and determination saved countless lives. In the summer of 2009, a luxury yacht named Ocean Serenity set sail from Cairns, Australia, on an exclusive cruise through the Coral Sea. The yacht carried a group of wealthy tourists eager to explore the pristine waters and vibrant marine life of this renowned region. Among them were Michael Williams, an adventurous businessman, his wife Susan, their teenage son Jake, and an elderly couple, Robert and Mary Thompson, celebrating their golden anniversary. The Coral Sea is home to diverse marine life, including the highly venomous sea snake. These snakes are usually shy and avoid human contact, but their bites can be fatal if not treated promptly. The passengers on Ocean Serenity were unaware of the lurking danger beneath the waves. On the morning of November 10th, the sun rose over a calm sea. The passengers enjoyed a day of snorkeling, swimming, and sunbathing. Michael and Jake spent hours exploring the vibrant coral reefs, marveling at the colorful fish and intricate coral formations. Susan relaxed on the deck with a book, while Robert and Mary reminisced about their adventures over the years. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the water, the crew prepared a lavish dinner on the deck. The mood was festive, with laughter and music filling the air. Unbeknownst to them, a small but deadly hitchhiker had made its way onto the yacht. A highly venomous sea snake, accidentally brought aboard with the snorkeling gear. After dinner, the passengers retired to their cabins. Michael and Susan were looking forward to another day of adventure. Jake, excited from the day's activities, stayed up late, sketching the underwater scenes he had witnessed. The sea snake, hidden in the shadows, slithered silently through the yacht, seeking warmth and shelter. As Jake reached for his sketchbook on the floor, he felt a sudden sharp pain in his hand. He jerked back, seeing the small, striped snake dart away into the shadows. Panic set in as the pain intensified. He knew he had been bitten by something dangerous. Jake stumbled into his parents' cabin, his face pale and sweaty. Michael and Susan sprang into action, realizing the gravity of the situation. They alerted the crew, who quickly searched the yacht for the snake while tending to Jake. The onboard medical supplies were limited, and the anti-venom kit was nowhere to be found. To make matters worse, a fierce storm had rolled in, knocking out the yacht's communication systems. They were stranded with no way to call for help. The nearest island with medical facilities was hours away, and they had to navigate through treacherous waters to get there. As the storm raged, the crew worked tirelessly to stabilize Jake. His hand had swollen and the venom was spreading. He felt dizzy and weak, his vision blurring. Michael and Susan stayed by his side, their fear and helplessness growing. The yacht's captain, James Harris, knew they had to reach the nearest island, Lizard Island, as quickly as possible. Captain Harris and his crew battled the storm, steering the yacht through towering waves and howling winds. The passengers huddled together in the main cabin, trying to stay calm despite the growing panic. The threat of the hidden sea snake added to their terror. Every shadow seemed to hold danger. Jake's condition worsened. His breathing became labored and he slipped in and out of consciousness. Susan held his hand, whispering words of comfort, while Michael paced the cabin, his mind racing for a solution. They needed to find the snake and secure the yacht, but the storm made it nearly impossible to search effectively. As the hours passed, the storm began to subside, but the tension on board remained high. The crew devised a plan to search each cabin methodically, using makeshift tools to corner and capture the snake. Meanwhile, the yacht made slow but steady progress towards Lizard Island. During the search, a crew member spotted the snake coiled in a corner of the engine room. Carefully, they used a long pole to coax it into a container. The danger was contained, but Jake's condition was critical. They had to reach the island soon. By dawn, the Ocean Serenity approached Lizard Island. The crew radioed ahead and a medical team awaited their arrival. As the yacht docked, paramedics rushed aboard, administering anti-venom to Jake and stabilizing his condition. He was swiftly transported to the island's medical facility for further treatment. Relief washed over the passengers and crew as they watched the medical team work. Jake's condition slowly improved, and he regained consciousness, weak but alive. Michael and Susan were overwhelmed with gratitude and exhaustion. The nightmare was over, but the memory of the ordeal would stay with them forever. In the aftermath, the authorities conducted a thorough investigation, ensuring no other venomous creatures were on board. The passengers were given medical checkups, and the yacht was declared safe. The incident served as a stark reminder of the unpredictable dangers of the sea.